Hey everybody, Big Z here. Sorry I look kind of disheveled tonight. I haven't had a chance to shave or shower, but I got in and I wanted to get this video out as soon as possible tonight. In fact, I've been trying to do it for almost a week now, but I said I got to stop and do this tonight. Before I do, I want to make a comment. I told you last week about the video about the food prices and what's going on. I don't know if you know a couple things that are very important. The water wars going on in California. They're having one of the worst droughts ever. And we know it's man-made, and it's in Idaho and Oregon and other states. And we're talking about no water and feed for cattle. We are in deep, deep, deep trouble, folks. And I don't know about you, but I'm having to work so hard just to feed myself. I'm spending almost $100 a day on food and gas. You know, I go out and have breakfast, it's 10, 15 bucks. A little local, get a breakfast down here. I eat lunch, same thing, another $15. Dinner, $20. There's 45, 30, 40 bucks in gas in the tank, and a few things, some beverages along the way there today. It's $100 every day, just like that. We can't sustain this, folks. We can't. And it's not slowing down or stopping. It's rapidly increasing. So it's like we ain't got another thing to deal with here. I got to ask you a question. Are you a human monster? Do you even know what you are? Do you know what the difference is between a human and a monster and what a human monster is? There is now a definition for it. You might already be one and not know it. So what exactly does this mean? Well, I'm going to show you. Bear with me for a moment here. And I've got this little image I'm going to take down. And I find it ironic that when they make these all these stuff about monsters, all the little images they have for what is a monster, it's this goofy looking thing here. But let me just do this right here real quick. Monster.com. Okay, so what is monster.com? This is an employment site. Well, what the hell does being a monster have to do with you gaining employment? What does monster have to do with you being an employee? Why the hell would you name your website, your company, who hooks up employers with employees, monster.com? You're going to find out in a moment. And one more thing here. Let's do this. I'm typing this thing here, Monster's Energy Drink. Let's see what images come up here. Lovely images. You like the 3 claws. Isn't that just special? But Monster Energy Drink. Again, what is the big deal with all the Monster stuff? Monster Energy Drinks sponsors everything now in sports. It's unbelievable. So, it's like the Monsters Inc., for the little children, the cartoon thing. What's the freaking fascination with monsters? Let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at what a definition of a monster is. Excuse me, my glasses here. We'll look at Black's Law Dictionary. We'll start with it first. And it says here the definition of a monster is a prodigious birth. Prodigious birth. What does prodigious mean? Let's take a look at that first. So prodigious means rumors of prodigious happenings such as monstrous birth. Monstrous birth. Prodigious specifically refers to monstrous birth. Unnatural or abnormal. Remember this. Unnatural or abnormal. Monstrous birth. Rumors of monstrous birth happening. Black's Law Dictionary. Back over to it again. Monster. What is monster? Sorry, I'm popping in and out, folks. A prodigious, a unnatural or abnormal monstrous birth, a human birth or offspring not having the shape of mankind, which cannot be heir to any land, albeit, and I think it continues on, albeit means it's a very ambiguous term. However, it means, I think it's there for a reason. It's very ambiguous for a reason. Howbeit through marriage, it says. So basically saying if you're a monster, it's kind of open where you can and cannot have property if you marry someone who's not a monster. Let's say if you're a specific bloodline who your daddy was, say, a fallen angel, and he came down here and mated with a specific woman, Hava, and she had some sons, or had a son, and his name was Cain. That's a very unnatural birth. So he would be considered a monster. So his bloodline would really have no right to personal property. So what do? They form corporations, they marry into it, they form corporations. Because we're going to look at that in a minute as well. What is a human being? Now, remember what it says. If you're a monster, you have no rights to personal property. So what makes you a monster, and what makes you, what can make a human a monster? Well, how are you defined as a human being? Well, you're defined through your DNA. Your DNA tells you what you are. You know, they find a hair, hey, you know, like when they're looking for Bigfoot, and they have to go do a test, and they find a hair. Oh, it belonged to a chimpanzee, or it was a human hair, or it was a cheetah or something. They know because the DNA says what it is. So what defines you as a human being is your DNA. But what if you did something that altered your DNA? What if you did something that altered your DNA? Let's stop for a moment here and think about this. Let's take a look at this for a moment here. Sorry, I'm going to pop back in and out. I'm not going to say it. I'll let you read this. It's exposed. Magnetism intentionally added to force. Are you reading what it says? Magnetism, like all those magnets people are putting on, which we thought were stupid. Well, no, it's happening. They're putting them all over their head, all kinds of things. And they're doing tests to see what kind of currents are running through them. But anyway, intentionally added to force. What does this do? If you introduce this into a human body, you're no longer a human being. You get it? You can read that headline up there if you want. It's over here on Rumble. I suggest you watch this video. It will blow you away. You can find it over at Praying Truth 11. Why his channel is still up, which will probably be, he'll probably be on channel number 12 here in a couple of days. He's already got 2 strikes. But anyway, back to this. Let's go back and look at monster. Okay, so we know what a monster is. It's a unnatural birth, a normal unnatural birth. Having the shape of mankind but not being one, which means if you become a monster, you can no longer own personal property. But it goes further than that, because the next step behind that is, what does civiliter mortuus mean? Mortis. Civiliter mortis. Okay, that's the step. This is what comes after that. From the wiki, it's a death, it's a civil death. It's a loss of almost all civil rights by a person due to a conviction of felony or due to an act by the government that results in the loss of civil liberties. What's the loss of civil liberties? You are a monster. It's interesting too when you look up what is monster. It used to say see human being. So let's take a look at human being. Supreme Court can define a human being as born or unborn to extend constitutional personhood to corporations which are artificial under the law. Well, why in the hell would you give a corporation human rights as a human and humans rights as a corporation? Because if you're a monster, let's just say your daddy was a fallen angel, you have a problem here, personal property. So you marry into it, or you form a corporation, and as a shareholder, the corporation owns the property. Are you following me? So again, if you've done something that changes your DNA, you are no longer a human being. And there's some precursors to this too. If you ever fill out an application, it'll have your name, address, social security number, and then it'll ask you, what is your sex? It'll say male or female. You don't check those boxes. Because if you check male or female, you're identifying yourself as an animal. Because male and female defines the sex of an animal. It's supposed to say man or woman. If it doesn't, you write man or woman down, make a box and check it. They trick you to take your rights away from you because you admitted you're an animal. Now, if you've done something that forced that thing that we looked at, you are now a monster. And your children will no longer, I don't even want to fathom what's coming, what the births are going to look like. So how many people have done this, have given up their rights to personal property? Because when it really comes down to it, this thing is run by the World Bank. They want to own everything. They want to monetize and own everything. And you're not going to be able to own anything. because you now are no longer defined as a human being. They will be a new classification, and it will be considered called human monster. You already are one if you've done this. Congratulations, thank you so much. Now there's just a handful of us left that have any rights to anything. Damn it, people, really. And let me just share a couple other things with you, because we can go into this shit into some serious depth. Most of you know this, but for some of you that don't, when you are born, you're given two certificates, a certificate of live birth and a birth certificate. Your birth certificate is a stock. It's on banknote paper. You know this. And on the flip side is those numbers written in red, which are to signify blood, which is your stock number. Oh, and by the way, before I get into that, they also take your feet and put ink on it and slap it on a piece of paper. You ever wondered why they do that? Do you know why they take ink of your foot? Because that's your soul. And they put ink on your soul and they stamp your soul to that piece of paper and it's sold and traded off. They capture your soul before your foot ever hits the ground as a human battery. That's exactly right. And it goes off and it's traded. And if you're savvy enough and you know how to do this, you can go and pull up your bond, and if you want, you can do your UCC1 filing, get your TDA, which is Treasury Direct Account. You can claim it back and get your sovereignty and so forth, and you become the bondholder of your own bond, which is set usually at a base value of $1 million. Now, that grows over time because you're a human resource and you pay taxes and you do this, so it has a value to it. And whoever owns that bond has the right to use your bond and the value of it as collateral for loans and all kinds of shit. And likewise, when you die, the reason you're giving a death certificate is because that bond can no longer be traded and it has a death benefit. So whatever the value of that bond was at the time of death, the bondholder now owns that money. Do you understand that? You don't get shit. Your spouse doesn't get shit. They do. They get to take the bond certificate value, certificate of death, and they now own it. It's their money. So if you've done something that's changed your DNA, guess what, dumb shit? Guess what you've done? You've given up right to ever clean that back. And not only that, it's just unbelievable. You've given up all your rights. Oh, here's another little fun fact for you in case you didn't know this. Even like your children. Your children have bonds. Someone owns your ass. Someone owns your children. And if you've done something, and now we're going to have this massive thing where people start dropping like flies by the millions, who's going to be collecting all this money, all these bonds? Something else I want to share with you, so very important. Get into the bonds, got something, man, I'm going to get down in this video because I forgot to include it. But, oh, here's one more thing. When you're born, your mother has a placenta too. Do you know they register that as a human being? As your double? Yeah, two of you. There's two of you. They don't do it once, they do it twice. Sneaky little bastards, aren't they? That's registered as a human being. That's right. And it has a bond, and it's traded also. Because there's two U's, by the way. If you haven't figured out what double U means, and the nut upside down side. So I just thought I'd share that with you tonight. If you know someone that hasn't done something that's changed their DNA, you might want to share this with them. Maybe this can help them to realize you don't do this thing, okay? So there, that's my video for tonight. You're now a monster, or maybe you're still a human being. I hope so. There's not many of us left. I guess the ones that are, I guess we'll be one of the few that can own property. So I guess go ahead, knock yourself out. Anyway, I love you. I'm out.